Hey, what's going on YouTube? It is basically the end of 2022, and I thought it might be neat to take a look back at all the units that have come out in 2022 and pick a team of 5 of my favorites and a team of 5 of my least favorites, and talk a little bit about what made each of them kind of like fall into my picks for what were some of my favorite units and not favorite units in FFBE this year. So a couple of things I want to point out before I show you who I've got picked is that the units that are on both of these lists, either my favorite or not favorite, are not necessarily good units or bad units. In fact, you might be surprised by some of the ones that are on my least favorite units because some of them are quite good, but I don't necessarily love them. And so that's not a measure of that. What it is a measure of what I think is useful and entertaining and enjoyable when I bring units like these to my party, or not useful or not enjoyable when I bring units like these to my party. So that's just a big disclaimer. Also, this is very, very opinionated. So if you have a difference of opinion, if you've been watching this channel for a while, you probably know that I do actually enjoy having conversation about it. So if you feel differently about me, about this than I do, please let me know in the comments. If you feel the same as me, let me know in the comments. Your mileage may vary completely, and I'm totally open to discussion about it. So there you go. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, looking at the screen right there, why is that Clash of Wills thing there? I just needed something to cover up the units that are on the screen before I showed you who my favorites and not favorites were. And it's also worth noting that a lot of my picks that are on my favorites list have to do with Clash of Wills, because Clash of Wills is some of my favorite content in the game. So you probably are not going to be surprised to see some of the units that are in my favorites pick. So without further ado, here are some of my favorite units that have come out in the past year. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. And lo and behold, a lot of Clash of Wills units. So we've got a handful of units here. Let's talk about them. These are some of my favorites one more time. We've got Divine Beast Chow. Chow is a magic tank in Clash of Wills. He's a morale battery. He's got skills that fill morale, and he fills morale on counterattacks. His counterattacks also heal the party and do lots of good things like LB fill. He's also got a lot of utility white magic, which is really cool, as well as utility skills. There are some things that I don't like about him, like his rotation and his mitigations and stuff kind of wear out in bad times, but he can do a lot of really good things with his Omni cover, which is really cool. He's technically a damage dealer for my favorite element in the game, which is light element. He provides a ton of party support. He just does all the cool things that I want him to do, and I think he's one of my favorite units that was released in this year as a result of it. And so there you go. As far as Tsukiko is a great example of one of my favorite types of units in all of Final Fantasy series, which is evokers and summoners. So just by that nature alone, she kind of makes my list because she's easily the best one of those we have. She puts up really neat field effects, which is kind of a nice thing that evokers do, which is really cool. She can do massive imperils because of being able to combine her own imperils with the field effects, which is really awesome. She can do morale fill for Clash of Wills. She can do rod imperil. She can do massive damage. She can do a lot of support for your party with protection buffs and curing status ailments and stuff like that. She just does a ton of stuff for your party, and she just has really easy rotations. She can do magic boosts. She's awesome. Really, really one of my favorite units that was released this year. Roberta and Ignitos does a ton of party support. While she doesn't do the absolute best damage, she does a lot of party support. She has a really big LB buff. Her shift LB can do lots of good stuff for your party. She can do fire support for your team, one of the best fire amps that's just available on a regular skill all the time in the game. She's got multiple killers. She can do 2 types of damage between magic and jump damage. She's got a skill that boosts up your party's modifiers. She can do tag team chaining. She can provide mirage stacks, which I didn't even put on the list, but it's one of those amazing things she does. Really big resistance buffs. She just does everything that I want her to do, and she's probably one of my favorite units that was released this entire year. I like jumpers too, and she's got a little dragon buddy. Ignitos is so cool. So yeah, and then she bonds with him. She fuses with him. She's really, really cool unit. Paladin Sylvie I probably don't need to explain why I like Paladin Sylvie, but you know, she does have really huge amps, multiple killers for the party, morale fill on multiple skills. She's got some neat attack capabilities that uses her spirit stat. She's a really good provoke tank. She basically gives your party immortality with her if you do like the counter build for her. She element resistance is like, what doesn't she do? Massive stuff for morale, like morale LBs get way stronger when you've got her on the party, because of her shift LB. Like, what doesn't she do? What doesn't she do? She's like the ultimate support unit, and how could you not love her? And then Chizuru, I want you to know I did not put her on here just because of her damage, but she, you know, again, she's a tag team chainer, so it's really easy to build into teams. She does multiple killers and can do fairly decent damage against them with her skills as long as she's targeting that enemy. She can also do tons of party support, like she's got a re-raise buff, she's got Katana Imperil, she's got Mirage Stack, she's got mitigations, she's just got a ton of stuff for the party, as well as her own really big wind amp, and wind amp for the party. She's just got it all. And so as a result, you know, these are my favorite units of the year, and I like them all because of they all do multiple things, and they do multiple things really well. They've got some things in there that they don't necessarily do well, like Chow, while he's technically a damage dealer, does not do the best damage. He can just kind of chip in and help out with either chaining or with capping. You know, it is there. You know, Tsukiko doesn't do the best protections, but it's there. And the fact that she can kind of fill multiple roles, she can break a little bit, she can imperil, you know, she's got a lot of flexibility. But these are all units that do a bunch of things really well. Some things best of all the categories of units that are in that same category. But other things not. But they're still really fun units to bring to the party. They can do really neat things for you. And I like them all the best for those reasons. So then the question then becomes, if those are my favorites, who are some of my not so favorite units? And like I said before, this is what I'm about to show you is not necessarily an indicator of whether or not these are good units or not good units, although one of them is definitely not a good unit. These are just units that have things about them that I either don't love or become an annoyance when I have to bring them to a party, or become an annoyance when I don't know, when I see people using them as like an answer to things, because it's like, okay, it's just like it's taking the fun out of the game, because like this is like a one. You'll see what I'm talking about here. So these are some of my not so favorite units. And here we go. Olive. Beach Blaster Olive is a really good unit. I just really don't enjoy having to fill her LB twice by turn 2 in order to get her going in like a good rotation. Like, she does a lot of damage, and she can do like imperils, she can do breaks, but it's just a really stressful thing to like not be able to get her LB filled in time if you don't have like the ability to fit in an LB fill unit in your party. Now, if you can bring like Chow and Olive, you can pretty much always fill her LB right away, especially if Chow can like soak up some hits and like counterattack. That's like not a problem. But like if you can't bring Chow for some reason, because like you're taking her to a Dark Visions clear or something like that, and you don't have the space for a unit like Chow, that can be really risky, and you might have to waste turns like hoping that you get a crystal drops to land in the right place in order to get her charged up and boosting for your big burst. So while she's really good, I find her really annoying and don't enjoy bringing her to things because of the way her like stacking and rotation works. She's great, but she's annoying. Golbez is fantastic. He's a fantastic unit that does one thing really well. That one thing he does is almost always useful, and he does it really well. But it's annoying because like that's like the one thing he does. Yes, he can break and imperil. That's cool, but it's not. You're not going to use that all the time. Like, you're basically just bringing him to Meteor, and you're either going to do that on turn 1 or do that on turn 3, and then start the rotation again of stacking up his magic. So he's not an exciting unit. He's cool. I love how accessible he is for most players. I love how with the right gear you can turn him into an absolute beast of a damage dealer. But I think he's really boring. I said it. Kimari is a great STMR, but his unit is completely confused about what he wants to do. He's just a poorly designed unit. He wants to be a magic damage dealer who is also a jumper, and has to gear for both and does so really poorly. But his STMR is great. Like, I'm glad I have him, and I can give his STMR to other units that do really well, like Sky. But yeah, sorry, Kimari, you just don't do it. You just don't do anything well. You kind of jump well, but like not really. Like I just rather bring somebody else. Edge, actually. It's not really just Edge. It's all the units that just focus on imperiling one thing. So like Edge and Kuja and Vaughn and Tulian, who I actually like, but like he does fall into this category. Like, I'm sorry, but you do one thing. Maybe you do that one thing really well, and in some fights that's really great. But every other fight that we go into where we can't do anything with that one element that you deal with, you're useless. You don't do anything useful. So I don't like units like that. I don't like units that do one thing and don't do it well, or do one thing really well, but it's only going to be useful some of the time. So there's a ton of units like this that aren't even necessarily breakers. Like units like Knights of Grandsheld, who does one thing fairly well, but anytime the enemy is immune or resistant to light element, see you later, Knights of Grandsheld. You're not bringing them. I don't care how good you are, unless you're giving them the Heo Vision card, and then it's like, now I'm relying on, you know, paid vision card sources to help him do a little bit of damage. Yeah, one-trick ponies, you're out. And that means Have too. Now Have is, you know, he's kind of weird in that like he wants to be an elemental imbue unit and a little bit of a breaker, and a little bit of buffer, and he does like all these things like kind of well, but like not really. So he's just like a poorly made unit when you take a unit like Have and compare him to a unit like Sylvie, or a unit like Tsukiko or Roberta, and it's just like, sorry dude, it's like totally tipped this way for the good units, the ones that I like. And that doesn't make all of these units are bad. Like I said, Olive and Golbez are definitely not bad units. They're just not units that I want to bring all the time for one reason or another. Now, Golbez, you know, if you can find a way to work in his good stuff that he does, he's a fine unit to bring. If you can find a way to deal with Olive's LB fill, he's great. Sorry, Kimari, Edge, and Have, you're only coming to very limited stuff and not useful stuff like all the time. And maybe that's like a bias for like how I like to play and the content that I like to play, which is, of course, Clash of Wills, where you need units with lots of flexibility, or you need units that do things really, really well so that you can deal with these ridiculous bosses, and do all the damage you need to do, and meet all the criteria. And the good, you know, the good units, the ones that I put as my favorites, are ones that help us to do that. So that was fun to talk about some of the units that I loved and didn't love in 2022. Who are some of yours? You know, I want to know. Let me know in the comments, and we can talk about it. It'll be a fun discussion, I'm sure. Tell me why I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm right. I'm open for discussion on that too. But until then, happy end of 2022, and hopefully you're having fun with the units on the list as well. Hopefully I didn't hurt too many feelings, but you know, it is what it is. It's an opinion. So yeah, see you later.